Compression, let's talk about it. Compression is one of those things that can immediately get people fired or someone, just not mad about it. I've heard preachers, do I got a compressor on my mic? Take that compressor off. It's one of those things to where it is going to make somebody work harder, right? If you have a really strong compressor on that mic and your gain stage is not set up right. So I always say, grab the microphone, yell into it, right? And then, mimic what that singer is going to do before sound check if you can. And that way you have something relatively set, especially preachers, because a lot of the times they get up, say blah, 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 blah. And then, it's just loud, right? So at the end of it, you're riding this fader, it's up at, 0, and then by the end of the sermon, it's at -10. It's way down here because homeboy is just, at max get it. So what compression does is help you with that. So let's see, this is our X and Y axis, okay? And on this side, let's go with 0, -5. This is our audio levels, -20, and then 25, and maybe 40. Okay, so so what compression does is we have two main things about compression. You have the threshold and the ratio. Okay, the threshold is at what volume level, at what point do you want to start compressing? -20, -10. When do you want that compressor to actually engage? And then the ratio is how much do you want to compress? You see a 3-to-1, 5-to-1, 10-to-1, 20-to-1, 2-to-1, whatever it is. So in order to remember ratio, what I always like to do is if it says 3-to-1, I used to put the 1 before the 3, okay? And so instead of saying 3-to-1 in my mind, I would say 1-to-3, okay? Because it just helps me remember that for every 1 decibel, the audio level goes up past that threshold, it's gonna compress 3 decibels, if that makes any sense. So if you had a 3-to-1, then it's gonna compress 3 decibels every time it goes 1 decibel over wherever your threshold is. A 20-to-1 is basically like a limiter. I mean, it is, it's gonna, compress really, really hard. Okay, so let's talk about threshold. At what point do we want the compressor to start compressing? So let's say the audio level is coming in here and we want to compress at -15 dB. Let me see what that actually would look like, okay? So let's put a compressor on my mic here, okay? There you go. And let's set it here to a 3-to-1, which is already set. But let's go down a little bit because my level's pretty low coming in. See if you can hear what that compressor's doing. Hey, 1, 2, check, 1, 2, hey. All right, so let me take that off. Hey, 1, 2, so that's what the compressor's doing. It's keeping me in check. Keeping me in check, that's what you want. All right, so then we have what's called the knee. All right, the knee is this joint right here. That's how aggressive do we want this point to be? Do we want it, like this, or do we want, more of a gradual curve? The knee is something that a lot of the times on a vocal mic you probably won't be able to hear, but so I'm doing a gradual knee here. Check, check, 1, 2. Hey, 1, 2. All right, let me do more of a hey, 1, 2. Can you hear the difference there? Hey, 1, 2 versus hey, 1, 2, how it kind of just gradually gets into compression there. So that's what the compressor is gonna do. It's not necessarily gonna make the soft points loud, rather than it's gonna move the loud points to where it's a little softer. And sort of you having to ride that fader, okay? And then, so let's talk about the attack, the hold, and the release. All right, so attack time is especially if I'm on a kick drum or a snare, something with that has some kind of a transient that I want to capture. I want to slow that attack time down so I can get that first transient and then it compresses. Or if you're on a microphone, you may want to attack a little bit faster, right? Because you want it more of a gradual type sound, right? Especially if someone just all of a sudden gets loud, All right, so then we have our hold time. So our hold time is once it starts to compress, how long is it going to stay in compression before it actually regresses or releases? That's what the hold time is going to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring my threshold down to a -40. Actually, let's do -45, so you can see and hear this hold. This holding. I'm gonna go ahead and increase that hold time. Check. Okay, and then let me decrease my release time so you can see what the hold does. Hey, okay, let me increase the hold time so you can just check. Hey, 1, 2. All right, that's what it is. And let me go ahead and decrease or increase that release so you can see that. Check. Hey. And then you can kind of hear that as well. So none of that is good. Let's see. All right, so I'm gonna hold and release a little faster. And then I'm gonna bring this back up to a normal operating level. That way I'm not having to strain. So if you can hear that, like when I have that threshold, all the way down, I feel like I'm suffocating, right? Because I have my in-ear monitors here, but I feel like I'm actually suffocating because I'm personally getting loud, but the audio, my dynamic range or that compressor is fighting me, and that's what singers feel. So just be really careful about compression and when to use it. That's compression. Let's go into another video on compressing drums.